They didn't need it except for Jesus. But if I talk about God, my record won't get played, huh? It would probably take away from my end. I hope it take away from my sins. Everybody screaming out, God, show me the way because the devil's trying to break me down. Islam, y'all, Islam. We are starting Sunday school. If you would like to stick around for Sunday school, that's what we're going to get going here pretty soon. So yeah, no drama over here. We ain't on no drama over here. We only on building up. I love like this. And if you like to purchase a crown, hit me up. I got many designs, handmade, high frequency crowns. With that frequency, especially while this weather's changing, that sun beaming, go get that sun gazing in, that energy from the sun, put your crown on and let that frequency hit you and just raise the vibration. All kind of stones. I have from tourmaline to turquoise to clear quartz. I mean, you name it. The tree of life have all the stones in it to give that frequency that we're needing. So Islam. So if you guys are interested in any of the crowns or the head cuffs or lock jewelry, we even have hair cuffs for the ponytail and the different hairstyles that you'll use that you can cuff different jewelry into the hair. So we got those coming out too. So be on the lookout for those and much more. Our hair butters, our shampoo bars, conditioners, hair oils, everything for growth. Focuses more on the thinning, the alopecia clients, people that really want to grow their hair healthy and get it into a healthy state. Um, so yes, be on the lookout for all these amazing products coming this spring and summer everywhere. It can be shipped all over the world if you need it to be. So yes, we're gonna get started with Sunday school today. So just give you a little, upkeep on that. Islam is I hope everyone's doing good today. We're supposed to have a co-host today, but she is out working, so we won't be co-hosting today. But maybe later we'll come on and we'll give a demonstration based off of what was talked about today in Sunday school. And the title for Sunday school today is Am I the Message I Bring? Are you the message you bring in any aspect? While you're working, are you that message that you always speak? Do you show up in that capacity? Or do we still need to do work? I mean, all of us got work to do, right? All of us have work to do. There's not one of us that don't. There's no such thing as perfect. I would like to know what perfect really is. Because we say, oh, no one's perfect. But then it says we're reaching for a perfected man. So what does perfect really mean? What is perfect from your aspect? Everyone's meaning of perfect can be different. Everyone's meaning of perfect may not be the same. So what is that meaning of perfect that we talk about? Well, we know we're reaching perfection, but what does perfection really look like to us, to the world? What is that really in detail? So I want to give some honors. I want to first rise giving honors. First thing, all meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the circle 7. And love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We're still on a journey of finding ourselves, right? We're still on this journey of finding self. This work that we do is not work that is just you could do the work and then it goes away. Like the work that's a constant. So that's why we're always very keen on reading these laws so that we know what to follow, what to stand on. My turban's a little tight today. These turbans be on your head, and at first they don't be tight, but then over a few minutes, it feels like it's going like this to your head. Like it's sucking onto your head and don't want to let go. The power of the turban, right? It's long. But yes, so we have to go through and we must recite our Constitution, do the restitution to our Constitution. It keeps us in alignment of our actions and how we act and how we should show up in the world. With everything that's going on in the world, with all the just everything that's going on, we still, as our character and as God's warriors or as Allah's warriors, we still have to stand on this present time. And we still need to stand on our square and stand for Allah. We still need to speak for Allah. We still need to be those warriors because the times that are going on now are even more that Allah needs us to speak for Him, to speak up in this present, in this physical. That we're still uplifting our brothers and sisters, regardless of what your background of belief may be. We still all need uplifting. We still need it because no one has this figured out. I don't care what video they place on social media, YouTube, whatever. Nobody holds the truth. None of these folks out here can tell you the truth. This is something you must search for yourself. And until the duty is done that we search for self for these truths and search within instead of trying to find them in everyone else, then we will come to truth. Right? Islam says Islam. We will come to this truth. But while we're constantly wanting to, we'll see what this person talk about, and because this person holds this and this person holds that, if they hold the truth. The truth can only be found within us. We have to be searching for truth so we can stand on truth. Because if you haven't searched for truth yourself, there's no way you can stand it. You can't stand on what another man tells you is something. You must be able to stand on that truth within yourself. So that must mean something that you have really researched out to say, I can codify this, or this sits with me. Okay. You can feel when truth is truth, and you can feel when something is a lie. You can feel it within yourself. Your spirit doesn't sit right when someone's lying. I don't care what building you're sitting in, up under whose teaching you're sitting up under there. The spirit is going to feel a certain kind of way when it doesn't resonate with you. You know what I'm saying? So we need to be more mindful of that and be more in tune with that as we continue to move through this because this is all spiritual. You know, it's what's speaking to your spirit. Is spirit speaking, or what is it? And we need to listen more to that. So that's getting in connection because everyone has a sacral chakra and a solar plexus chakra. Everyone has a chakras in them. And with it all being said and done, that's what your Bible's based on. It's really telling you about your chakra system. From the beginning to the end, it's aligning the chakra. In any text, it's about you aligning self. It's about getting in alignment. Religion, yeah, one thing, but religion is realignment when you really think about it. To realign yourself, to get yourself back into this code and back to the essence of Allah, to raise your vibration up. Because for too long, we've been in these lower vibration energies. And it's time for everyone to raise it. No, like I say, Allah has no respect for persons, so it has nothing to do with you and what you hold and how you hold it and what you're going through. We all must connect ourselves. We must all realize. So, to get into that, we're going to go on and start our meeting. We want to all rise as we recite our Moorish American prayer. We turn to the east as going within yourself, not necessarily. You know, even if you can't turn to the east, go within yourself for this prayer. We put our 5 fingers on the left, 2 on the right, with our heels touching one another. Standing on our square, repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my God, and my salvation, by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, through Ali. Amen. Islam. I would like to first rise giving the highest holy praise to our Father God Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Giving high holy praises to the Mother Allah, the Mother of virtue, the harmonies of life that breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. Rising, giving the highest honor, holy honor, to our illustrious and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, giving high holy honors to all the illustrious prophets for all the wonderful works that they brought into us. Because here we honor all the divine prophets. We don't say it's one, it's on. No, we honor all the divine prophets because they all brought divine message to us from a divine place, out of divine love. So they're all divine prophets. As I say, perfect. What is perfect? When we fall into the flesh of man, that's when we fall into these cares of the world. So, can this flesh be perfect? We can't think that all people were perfect because they came in fullness. They might have fell into their flesh also. That's why Jesus had to go into the wilderness for self-examination. He went into the wilderness for self-examination, not to go examine anyone else, not to see what nobody else had going on. He went into the wilderness to examine himself. So in examining self, what do we find? Because that's the things that we need to be doing. We need to go in and examine self. So going into the wilderness, go into your mind and go examine yourself. Go examine your thoughts. Go examine your ways. Does your character show up in the way that you say it does? Are you the message you bring? Or do we be playing with God? Which we shouldn't be playing with God. Or playing with God. We're going to hope. Wow. So now for the recitation for our divine constitution and bylaws. Salvation, Allah, unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America, the divine constitution and bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7. And love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest. Because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh. And on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims, all over the world. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the hearts, guys. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is put in danger or accused falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the law and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negro, colored folk, Black people, or Ethiopian, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained the noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Morris Science Temple of America, then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your house. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God, Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, the Moorish Science Temple of America, home office of Noble Drew Ali, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam. Now, before the additional laws for Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Act 1. The Grand Sheikh is the governing head of our temple. All business of said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali before being acted upon by any member. Let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the member to sacrifice finance, that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer who violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their advent meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second case will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch him. Let it be he or she, according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. For I have the power invested in my hand, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must subscribe himself to the questionnaire, confirm himself to the questionnaire, and let every member who is able to do, and let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guidance of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, so they know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negro, color folk, black people, or Ethiopian, because these are names they gave the slaves in 1779, and it lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and what I want to say about that, nothing wrong with being black and proud. There's nothing wrong with that. We know out of black comes everything. But when we're saying these names were given to people that were slaves, you have to understand, by taking on the label, you place yourself in a slave category. It puts you into property. That's what they called you when they put these labels on people. They made us property. So how do you stop from doing that? You need to stop subscribing to these labels and these names, because they're still pretty much associated with the same thing. So if nothing changes and you're still taking on the same thing, you're going to get the same result. Until you change that, then you'll get different results. But it hasn't been changed, because we're still walking around doing the same thing, calling ourselves these same names, which doesn't do anything but delude the mental mind. So the mind state still stays in a slave mind state. Not that you're in a slavery this way, but you're enslaved here, because you haven't even freed your mind enough to let the rest follow. You're allowing it to stay stuck in a place that someone else told you to be. And this is why this is important, to know your nationality and your divine freedom. So then you know where you stand and how to stand in this government or anywhere that you show up. You decided to leave America and go to another country and stand in their government. This is going to help you actually know how to act. It's a character building thing. So no matter where you go, you're going to know how you should show up and act. And you should know everywhere you go that they have a nationality and a divine creed, most likely. We have two. Islam. So not only earthly salvation, we have divine salvation. We have more than one. So why not get to know that? Why not get to know how you are able to lift yourself out of these cares of the world or lift others out of the cares of the world? Mainly our sisters. This is the plan. We have the plan to do that. It's just whether you're willing to learn about what that plan is about. And because it's not easy and fast, do you walk away from it? You should want something that's lasting. So that takes research. That takes time for you to keep digging in. Let me see. Let me put this recipe together. Putting a recipe together for self. Or as I say, creating a constitution for yourself. One that you can stand on that actually will check your character. That will actually check you in when you're moving, if you're not moving correctly. That character will shift in, because in character, there's act. So that character will shift in and be like, hey. So we must show up better. We must show up as the message we bring. If we're bringing the message of God, if we're bringing the message of Allah, we should never be speaking anything from a hateful place. Because God is love. Jesus is love. The prophets were love. The first thing it starts out is love. So love ain't that energy that we be putting out. Love. So we have to stand on this love vibration in order to love one. So we are not Negroes, colored folk, Black people, or Ethiopians, because those are names they gave to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why the Moorish Americans are the descendants. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained the noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faith. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of quality humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds filled with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of the Father God Allah. Islam, welcome to Sunday school. Welcome to Sunday school, the guiders of the nation. Out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation, literally. But you gotta be in Sunday school. You should be in school every Sunday school is just the beginning of the cycle of the next 7 days. But every day we need to be in school. The thought, the school of thought, to go into the mind, to trace ourselves back. So then we can come up out of this that we're in and raise to a higher vibration. Back to the essence of Allah. Back to our Father God Allah to realign us. More simply means love. When you really break it down, my Sharia more. Think of Stevie Wonder, as one of my teachers would say, and then you can really get a gist of really what it means. We're love. We're love made manifest. That's really what we are as a people. If you want to call it Asiatic, Black, however you want to coin it, we as the energy of Jesus, of Allah's children, we're the message we bring. We're that love. We're that love vibration. We're love made manifest. We are love made manifest. When Allah, the mother and the father said, let's make man in our image. That was love made manifest. They manifested the love that they had with one another and manifested us. So we're love made manifest, which we should show up in that way. So many things have pulled us down to allow us to act in the ways that we do in such a lower vibration. It has come through what we eat, think, see, and do. Our senses. Let's just say what your senses do. All five senses. That's why I say. Allow those that can use their five senses who are able to do so. Because you got five senses, but that sixth sense makes you a God body. So you must use these five senses to raise yourself to the highest point, back to Allah, back to the essence. And then that God body becomes that sixth sense and becomes one. And then as a collective, we come together. And we could build a love energy that doesn't go away. It's the energy we're putting out that's causing the world to be what it is. When one side is full of hate, one side is full of love, or trying to at least. There's separation there. We need to bring this into alignment with one another. We got to bring the love in. So whatever's hating or whatever's not of that vibration must go. And last night when we had this eclipse that maybe no one knew about, it got rid of it. So even if yesterday you was feeling like it was something you was letting go of, like this is it, I'm not doing it no more. This is the energy that was being brought in from that eclipse. This is why it's important to understand cosmology, astrology, the ethers. Like all of this is very important for us. As much as they told you to stay away from it. But this is why so many others, if you look at culture, religion, this is why they've stayed on their correct. Maybe not correctly, but they get more done because they're not chasing behind what somebody's telling them. They're actually going out and saying, hey, I need to research. Let me find myself first. Let me first find me. Because once I find me, then I can show up more authentically. And I could be the example that I speak of. Not just speaking and never showing up as the example of who you are. Always wanting it to look good and not necessarily, you don't want people to see you on your bad days, but they should. That's being authentic. That's being real. Because we've gotten so used to the fake that we think the real is the new fake. Being real is the new fake, literally. Like, where's the realness? We gotta get back in tune with stuff. We gotta get back in tune with who we are. Regardless of what everybody has to do to work. Whether you want to or you don't want to. Everyone has to do this work. Because at this time, from this point on, you're gonna force it. As much as you want to, oh, why is this and why is that? That's because that cord is pulling you even tighter. Because it wants you to reconnect back to Allah. It wants you to reconnect back to source. Like I say, whatever name you want to put on, Allah, source, God, creator, whatever you want to put on, Elohim, put on it what you need to put on. Just know it's pulling you closer. And as much as you're trying to fight to get away, it's just pulling you even closer. So the pain gets worse. The struggle gets harder. Because until you come back within self and raise your vibrations up, you're creating all hell in your life. You're creating. Nobody else is. You can't blame it on this person, that person. It's you. Thoughts create things, and everything you think creates your reality. It ain't nobody else to create your reality. And we have to understand it. We're going to get into this lesson today. Islam, get into this lesson. All right. So I was researching some stuff, right? And what came up? Was researching something, and what came up, that matter of fact, it was, tell y'all what I was researching. Let me go. On the day I was researching it, it was something about the Heliopic. That's what it was. It was something based on Heliopic that took me to this. That took me to this video of this sister, and in this video, let me see, where is she? In this video, she is breaking down the Aquarian Gospel, which in the Aquarian Gospel, as she's breaking this down, she found Lamas Brahmas is mentioned in the Aquarian Gospel, right? Lamas Brahmas is in our Koran, our Circle 7 Quran. Lamas Brahmas. Lamas Brahmas is one of the three priests that went to see Jesus. So in the Circle 7, there's three priests that show up. Okay? There's Ravana, and I'm going to read these chapters so y'all can get familiar with who these three priests were. Because remember, they always say the three priests that brought present Jesus is the baby in the manger. So there were three priests, and you just ain't showing up for that. You're showing up for a reason. So these three priests that visited Jesus, one was named Ravana, the other one's name was Lamas Brahma, and the other one was Barato Arebo. We're going to go through those. So y'all going to keep out how this coincides with everything, right? Three priests that went to see Jesus. We're going to talk about the diet today, that the diet is even in there, of how you shouldn't be eating flesh that you eat, and then wonder why your vibration is so low. Wonder why all you think is bad things, and bad things about people, bad things about yourself, because of the things you're consuming within. And just because you think you eat great doesn't mean, because I know a gang of people that eat amazing. The mindset is different. So all this has to realign. You have to make sure what you're bringing into the body or what you're bringing into your mind is aligned. Because one ain't working without the other. It's just not. No matter who you think you are and how long you've been doing it. It's just not. Because the mind has to be clear. You got to get that together too. That's why it says to keep the heart and mind pure with love and your body clean with water. So the body's not meaning just the outside, but how do you cleanse the inside? How do you cleanse your thoughts? How do you keep the inside of your body clean? Islam. So she talked about them in the Aquarian Gospel, and it was just beautiful the way she put it out there. I want to play the video. Is it 10 minutes? She's really. And the Aquarian Gospel, when I looked at it, let's just go to that Aquarian Gospel. And I went to it because I'm like, well, where did this Aquarian Gospel come from? Oh, excuse me. Where did this Aquarian Gospel come from, right? So I wanted to know, in what year was the Aquarian Gospel prepared? This is what y'all know, AI, I call it my Allah's intelligence, because we have a whole relationship. And she's gotten better with the way she breaks things down. Look, I want y'all to hear what she has to say. Because it's what I'm really like going into is seeing these people that have written these scripts. Don't look like it. Hold on.
Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ by Levi H. Dowling, first published on December 1st, 1908.
It was first published in 1908, the Aquarian Gospel, right? Heard of it. Then I asked what year was the first Bible published?
Well, the books that make up the Bible were written over many centuries. The first time the Bible was published as a book in type was 1455. This publication was the Gutenberg Bible, printed in Latin by Johannes Gutenberg in Mainz, Germany. It is considered a landmark in the history of printing and the dissemination of knowledge.
So that's Germany. The first published one was Germany for the Bible. The Aquarian Gospel was Jesus of the Christ by Levi H. Dowling. It said something about dissemination of knowledge. That's where I was like. But of course, it's distribution, sharing information, things like that. Oh, it's not so agree. Hold on, y'all. Let me know if okay, so with the Aquarian Gospel, I said, oh, it's somewhere else. Where'd it go? Okay, so we did the Aquarian Gospel. Um, did we know about the Akashic records as a concept? They have never been published, but of course, like through the writings and the things of the Akashic records, what I love is Edgar Cayce. I love me some Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce is a dope guy for research. Based on he was able to go in trance and get these Akashic records from his life. So I was always wondering, well, were these records ever published?
The Akashic records as a concept have not been published in the traditional sense of a single definitive book written by a single author that is considered the primary. Instead, the idea of the Akashic records is discussed, interpreted, and written about by various over time. Here's a breakdown of how the concept originated and published. Theosophical writing. The concept being prominent in the late 19th and early 20th century writings of the Theosophical Society, particularly Wisdom, Doctrine, and Outward Records. While they did publish the Akashic records, they introduced and elaborated on the ideas in their book Doctrine. Rudolf Steiner, Austrian philosopher and founder of the Akashic, Rudolf Steiner, also wrote lectures extensively on the Akashic records in the early 19th. His articles in the journal Lucifer Notes and later compiled books
Oh, come on now. Let's keep going.
discussed and supported the study of the Akashic mysteries of Atlantis and America. Some of his work relates to the first continent of Atlantis, Liberia, and cosmic theory. Edgar Cayce was the 20th century American Edgar Cayce popularized the concept of Akashic records. Through his transcripts, he often referred to the book of life and claimed to access information from it about individuals' past lives, health, and future possibilities. While Cayce himself published a book titled The Akashic Records, the transcripts of his number in thousands, containing a vast amount of information individuals could use. Many books have been compiled and published based on his research about the Akashic records, such as Edgar Cayce's Akashic Records of Life by W.A. Smith. The third author, in more recent times, these authors have published books offering their perspectives on the Akashic records, how to access them, and how to interpret the information. These books
Yeah.
offer insight into Cayce's personal experiences, related sources of the Akashic records, examples of how to use the Akashic records, about the how, and the Akashic records, sacred exploration of experiences into the subconscious higher necessity. In summary, the Akashic records themselves have not been published as a single book. Instead, the concept has been explored and explained in numerous books by various individuals throughout history, each offering their unique understanding and experiences that they believe key to the personal storehouse of information. These publications range from philosophical and esoteric exploration to practical guides to access the secret.
So to me, that's something you must go within to get access to. We have other texts that can help guide us there, but these Akashic things like this is more within. You got to go with yourself, find deep and source and help bring these down too. So I asked what year the Quran was published. What year was the Quran published? Oh, it said
While the Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad in 16 CE and his death in 36 CE, it was compiled and written shortly after. The first time the Holy Quran was printed was typed between 1537 and 1538 in Venice, Italy. This edition, produced by Paganino de Paganini, is considered the first printed Arabic Quran. However, it contained numerous errors and was not well received by the Muslim world. Only one copy of this edition is known to have survived. Later, more accurate editions of the Quran were printed, including one in St. Petersburg, Russia, in 1787 by Mullah Ali. The printing of the Quran became more widespread in the 19th century.
Right. So you see that said St. Petersburg, Russia. I looked up St. Petersburg, Russia. First of all, Russia has a very high population of Muslims. It all you gotta do is look up Islam in Russia. Islamic Russia. Russia has a big Muslim community. Big Islam. Big Islam in Russia. Maybe. So I said St. Petersburg, Russia, Italy, all these places that these texts were really written were not here in America. So who was telling our story from here when none of these were written from us? My question. Are we the message we bring? Mm, interesting. Then I asked about the Holy Quran of the Moorish scientific. I loved it. Loved the text. It's like funny how there's a lot of these others in this. I'm gonna break it because she's gonna actually give it. This is what I love because it makes you dig deeper instead of the surface level stuff. AI even helps you go deeper. So you're just not thinking on the surface. Let's just only do the surface. No, we're going to dig deeper. So when I asked about the Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by our noble prophet, Ali, this is what she said. It confirms so much.
Sacred text of the Moorish Science of America entitled The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science of America. It is also known as the 13th century Quran, used as many that is certified Quran. This book is completely and orthodox. Compiled by the Journal of the Moorish Science of Notes about activity, publication, and content. The first edition of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science of America was published in 2007. The book is a compilation of various books. The first 19 chapters are largely derived from the Aquarian Gospel of Christ by Isaac Allen, published in 2017. Slowly travel from Judea, Egypt, and Palestine versus all chapters 1 to 45 are adapted from Rosicrucian versions. These chapters offer guidance, education, and responsibility. Final 4 chapters are written by Joseph about himself. In these chapters, he addresses activities, intentionality, Christianity, American, African American, and outlines principles of the liberty. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science of America was first published in 1964. It is a key textbook of the Moorish Science of America, outlining principles about the history, identity,
Outlining the belief. The belief is perhaps what you think is the truth. Doesn't necessarily mean it. Gave us this Quran, this Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It wasn't to be used on a surface. Literally, you got to go deeper because she just told you from the different parts that it came from. And my sister is reading definitely from the Aquarian Gospel, which sounds just like our chapter 17 in our book. So I'm going to go to 17 first. I'm going to read chapter 17. Out of chapter 17, that's the Aquarian Gospel because she said the first 20, what she say, the first how many chapter? Yes, because I believe this is one of them. First 19 chapters are largely derived from the Aquarian Gospel. So we're talking resurrection, we're talking all of those amazing things. So I'm going to go to 17. Go to 17 because uh, did you read this first? 17. Here we go. So it's long. I'm gonna say this: Jesus never rebuked the scribes. Our prophets, they're existing in a vibration of resurrection. All of it is love. So the prophets, they exist in a vibration of resurrection. And that's love. So the vibration, because you're unable to see it, you got to understand this vibration of love is always there. It doesn't go anywhere. He never rebukes the scribe. And he never makes an announcement. He does the work. His presence is enough. Jesus' presence is enough, even through this, because this is where he's showing up fully materialized. After they hung him and did what they did on the cross, this is where he shows up. This is one of the chapters he shows up fully materialized. But 17, 18, and 19 are more about his, resurfacing, like the resurrection of him and him showing up in different places to different people, his spirit. So Jesus, Islam, the divine instruction from the Holy Prophet, chapter 17. Not Jesus the Aquarian Gospel. Like when I found that out, it all made sense. Because when this lady was reading from it, it was sounding just like this. I was like, wow, let me go back. I know that's familiar. Um, chapter 17. 17. That's a 9. It's a 9. We riding on the 9 vibration again. 9. The number 17. Jesus appears fully materialized before Apollo and the Silent Brotherhood in Greece. Appears to Claudius and Juliet on Cyprus near Rome. Appears to the priest in the Egyptian temple at Heliopolis. Apollo, with the Silent Brotherhood of Greece, was sitting in a Delphine grove. The oracle had spoken loud and long. The priests were in the sanctuary, and as they looked, the oracle became a blaze of light. It seemed to be on fire and all consumed. The priests were filled with fear. They said, a great disaster is to come. Our gods are mad. They have destroyed our oracle. But when the flames had spent themselves, a man stood on the oracle pedestal and said, Allah speaks command, not by an oracle of wood and gold, but by the voice of man. The gods have spoken to the Greeks in kindred tongues through image made by man. But Allah, the one, now speaks to man through Jesus, the only Son, who was and is and evermore will be. This oracle will fail. The living oracle of Allah, the one, will not fail. Apollo knew the man who spoke. He knew it was the Nazarene, who once had taught the wise men in the Acropolis and had rebuked the idol worshippers upon the apple. And in a moment, Jesus stood before Apollo and the Silent Brotherhood and said, behold, for I have risen from the dead with gifts for men. I bring to you the title of your vast estate. All power in heaven and earth is mine. To you, I give all power in heaven and earth. Go forth and teach the nations. And this is for us too. Go forth and teach the nations of the earth the gospel of the resurrection of the dead and the eternal life through Jesus, the love of Allah made manifest to man. Remember, I said, prophet, Jesus, all of them are existing in vibration of resurrection. So that's all love. And then he clasped Apollo's hand and said, my human flesh was changed to higher form by love divine, and I can manifest in flesh or in the higher planes of life at will. I can manifest at will. This is what happens in the energy of the spirit, and when your spirit is of love, is where love may manifest. He said, I can manifest in flesh or in the higher planes of life at will. What I can do, all men can do. Go teach the gospel of the omnipotence of man. Then Jesus disappeared. But Greece and Crete and all the nations heard. Claudius and Julia, his wife, lived on the Palatine in Rome, and they were servants of Tiberius. But they had been in Galilee, had walked with Jesus by the sea, had heard his words, and seen his power. They believed that he was Jesus made manifest. Now Claudius and his wife were on the Tiber in a little boat, Storm swept from the sea, and the boat was wrecked. Body and his wife were sinking down to death. And Jesus came and took them by the hands and said, Claudius and Julia, arise and walk with me upon the waves. They arose and walked with him upon the waves. 1,000 people saw 3 walk on the waves and saw them reach the land that they were all amazed. I want to stop there because that takes me back to the book of Koran. Amazing movie. Call it what you want. Amazing movie. I went to see it with my son at the movie. Changed their life, changed their perspective on how they even look at God. So I love the book of Clarence for the younger sector to get a glimpse of what it is because I love it. Because that doggone Clarence had to find that Jesus within instead of thinking he had to be like Jesus. He had to go within and find that alignment. And once he was able to find that alignment back to source, back to his father God Allah, he was able to walk the water. So it's the faith that you have, not the belief. It's the faith you have that will get you up to walk across the water. You gotta have true faith. You can't think it, you gotta know it. When you're thinking it, that's belief. When you know it, it's faith. It's wrong. And Jesus came and took them by the hands and said, Claudius and Juliet, arise and walk with me upon the waves. And they arose and walked with him upon the waves. 1,000 people saw 3 walk on the waves and saw them reach the land. They were all amazed. And Jesus said, you men are wrong. I am the resurrection and the life. That they are, wait, I am the resurrection and the life. They that are dead shall live, and many that shall live will never die. By mouth of gods and demigods, Allah spoke unto your fathers long ago, but now he speaks to you through perfect men. He sent his son Jesus in human flesh to save the world. And as I lifted from the watery grave and saved these servants of Tiberias, so Jesus will lift the sons and daughters of the human race, yet every one of them, from darkness and from the graves of carnal things to light and everlasting life. I am the manifested blood raised from the dead. Behold my hands, my feet, my side, which carnal men have pierced. Claudius and Juliet, whom I have saved from death, are my ambassadors to Rome. Remember, I just told you for this written. And they will point the way and teach the gospel of the Holy Breath and the resurrection of the dead. And that was all he said. But Rome and all of Italy heard. Remember, the Rosicrucian was written in Italy, or was it the Bible? Oh, we're going to go back to that. Because it's pointing out these places. The priests of Heliopolis were in their temple, met to celebrate the resurrection of their brother Nazareth. They knew that he had risen from the dead. The Nazareth appeared and stood upon a sacred pedestal on which no man had ever stood. This was an honor that had been reserved for him, who first would demonstrate the resurrection of the dead. When Jesus stood upon the sacred pedestal, the master stood and said, Ah, hell, the great bells of the temple rang, and all the temple was ablaze with light. And Jesus said, All honor to the masters of this temple of the sun. In flesh of man, there is the essence of the resurrection of the dead. This essence quickened by the Holy Breath will raise the substance of the body to a higher tone and make it like the substance of the bodies of the flames above, which human eyes cannot behold. There is a holy ministry in death. Essence of the body cannot be quickened by the holy breath because of fixed stars. The body must disintegrate, and this is death. And then upon these pliant substances, Allah breathes, just as he breathed upon the chaos of the deep when the worlds were formed. And life springs forth from death. The carnal form is changed to form divine. The will of man makes possible the action of holiness. When will of man and will of Allah are one, the resurrection is back. In this, we have the chemistry of mortal life, the ministry of death, the mystery of deific life. My human form was wholly given to bring my will to the soon with the deific will. When this was done, my earth paths all were done. And you, my brother, know full well the foes I had to meet. You know about my victories and successes, my trials in the courts of men, my death upon the cross. You know that all my life was one great drama for the sons of men. pattern for the sons of men. I have lived to show the possibilities of man. What I have done, all men can do. And what I am, all men shall be. The master's look, the form upon the sacred pedestal had gone. But every temple priest and every living creature said, praise Allah. Everyone said, praise Allah. Because in there you don't leave it, making us think. You must be that faithful servant. Like for real, be that faithful servant. Because what Jesus could do, all men can do. That's what he came here to show you the possibilities of man, not impossible, but literally to show you your possibilities. That's the difference. You think everything's impossible because it's an impossible this and an impossible that. But everything is possible. He said, I came to show you the possibilities. These are the things you can do, not what you can't do. So, as I talked about these three priests that went to see Jesus, there were three priests. Ravana was one of them. I'm going to introduce you to Ravana, but I'm going to also give you some stuff where Ravana and Jesus, while they were together, what took place. So, our dial plate of heaven. What we keep on our dial plate of heaven? What is the dial plate of heaven? That dial plate is astrology. It's the astro. It's it's all of it. Seeing the stars and the cosmos. The dial plate of heaven. And it's following a special star master of the stars. When we think of the dial plate of heaven. So, in chapter 6, in the divine instructions from the Holy Prophet, chapter 6, life and works of Jesus in India among the Muslims. A royal prince of India, Ravana in the south, was met at the Jewish feast. Okay, so Ravana in the south. He was a man of wealth and he was just. And with the band of Brahmic priests sought wisdom in the way. So that's Ravana. Now I'm gonna go down the theme. He gets to he goes on his travel with these with his Brahmic priests, and he goes to the west. And when Jesus stood among the Jewish priests and read and spoke, Ravana heard and was amazed by it, right? And so he's going and he's listening, and then he wants to know more about how he could reach, right? How he could get to the child. So he travels and he gets. So he was entranced and asked to know the way to the Nazareth that he might go and honor such a one as the Son of Allah. So he has this gorgeous train and he journeys and he goes to Nazareth of Galilee. So this is where he's at, Nazareth of Galilee. He found the object of his search engaged in building dwellings for the sons of men. He found and when he first saw Jesus, he was climbing up a 12-step ladder, and he carried in his hand a compass, a square, and an axe. Jesus is climbing up a 12-step ladder with a compass, a square, and an axe in his hand. That's when he first sees him going up this ladder. So we're gonna speak esoteric because if you have them three things in your hand, how you climbing a ladder as a person? You know that may not happen. But with Jesus and this spirit and this resurrection of spirit, the spirit that's in him. So that's like he's amazed by it. Ravana said, "All hail, most favored son of heaven." And at the end, Ravana made a feast for all the people of the town. And Jesus and his parents were the honored guests. For certain days, Ravana was a guest in Joseph's home on Miriam. Now, we did this chapter before. We talked about Miriam, what Miriam breaks down to. Miriam breaks down to a man. So that's what we were looking how when they came to get Jesus from here and take him to the east to learn about something. He was here. Jesus of Nazareth was born here in the Missouri mounds of the church. Cahokia master. Excuse me. And then he asked that he might be the patron. And so he went to Miriam's way, sought to learn the secret of the wisdom of the sun. But it was all too great for him. Like all this wisdom was too great for this man to take in. And then he asked that he might be the patron of the child, might take him to the east, where he can learn the wisdom of the bronze. He was in the west. He's taking him to the east. That tells you right there, well, if he's taking him to the east, he wants him to take him to the east. That means he was in the west. And Jesus longed to go, that he might learn. And after many days, his parents gave consent. Then with proud heart, Ravana, with his train, began the journey toward the rising sun. And after many days, they crossed the sand and reached the province of Orissa, and the palace of the prince. The Brahmin priests were glad to welcome home the prince. With favor, they received the Jewish book. And Jesus was accepted as a pupil in the temple of Jagwana. And here he learned the Vedic and the Manic law. Talked about that too. You can look up what the Vedic and Manic law are all about and know that they still use Manu law here in the States, in the United States. The Brahmic masters wondered at the clear conceptions of the child and often were amazed when he explained to them the meaning of the law. So he was a little boy. He might not even have been as old as, I mean, he was little when he was going to dispute with the doctors of the law. He might have been about 8 years old at that time. They say he was teaching from the age of 12, but I know Jesus probably, once he was able to teach. It's just whether they want to listen to this child, right? So that's Ravana. That's one priest. Now we're going to go to Lama. We're going to introduce you to llamas, and I'm going to take you through some of the things llamas do. Now, llamas promise Islam, the divine instructions from the Holy Prophet. Chapter 7, the friendship of Jesus and llamas. Jesus explains to llamas the meaning of truth. Among the priests of Jagwanis was one who loved the Jewish book. Lamed Brahma was the name by which the priest was known. One day, as Jesus and Lamas walked alone in Plaza Jagwanis, Lamas asked, "My Jewish master, what is truth?" And Jesus said, "Truth is the only thing that changes not. In all the world, there are two things. The one is truth, the other is falsehood. And falsehood, that which seems to be. Now, truth is I. It has no cause, and yet it is the cause of everything. Falsehood is not, and yet it is manifest of right. Whatever has been made will be unmade. That which begins must end. All things that can be seen by human eyes are manifest of eyes, not. So must pass away. The things we see are but reflexes, just appearing, while the ethers vibrate over. When conditions change, it disappears. The holy breath is truth, is that which was and is and evermore shall be. It cannot change nor pass away. Lamas said, "You answer well. Now, what is man? What is man?" What is man? Man is the breath made flesh. So truth and falsehood are conjoined in him. And then they strive, and not goes down, and man is truth abides. Think, right? Now we're going to go 22 to 31 because we wanted to get that meaning of truth. And man, in our us, where truth and falsehood is strangers. That's why I say you can't really go off because somebody say they hold truth. Because man is truth and falsehood strangely mixed up. It's strangely. So you have to decipher truth from falsehood. That's why I say that truth is different within self. That truth is different in your intuition, especially as women. Truth is different. Our intuition will tell us it ain't right. Someone get to feeling funny, you get to feeling weird, it'll tell you it ain't right. So truth, man is the truth. We can be more truth than we can be falsehood if we let it go away. We let not go down and let truth abide in us. Islam. So down to 22. Again, Lamont asked of wisdom, what have you to say? And Jesus said, it is the consciousness it is the consciousness that man is I, that Allah and man are one. That's the secret. Allah and man are one. If someone told us that more, if we heard that more even from growing up, the way we would be now would be so different. Because we would be walking around here as God and God in nothing but love. As a resurrected spirit, we would be walking around here loving on each other and not finding out the way to pull each other down or take away from one. Islam. So that's what wisdom is. It's the conscience. That not is not. That power is but an illusion. That power is but an illusion. That heaven and earth and hell are not above. So heaven's not above. Earth is not around. And hell is not below you. They are all within you. So that heaven and earth and hell are not above, around, below, but in, which in the light of Ak becomes not, and Allah is all. Lamas asked, pray, what is faith? Jesus said faith is the surety of the omnipotence of Allah and man, the certainty that man will reach the ethic life. Salvation is the ladder, reaching from the heart of man to the heart of Allah. It has 3 steps. Belief is first, and this is what man thinks perhaps is the truth. Faith is next, and this is what man knows is the truth. That's why I say faith, you gotta know it. You can't think it, you gotta know it for it to be belief. Fruition is the last, and this is man himself. Belief is lost in faith, and in fruition, faith is lost. And man is saved when he has reached the ethic life. When he and Allah are one, when he and Allah are one. That's when we reach the ethic life. When we realize us and Allah are one, we can reach perfection. But while we stay separated, we never realize that that's what we're able to reach. Because we're comfortable in the spaces we're in instead of working harder to come up. Let's work harder. Islam. So that is Islam. Now I want to introduce you to Bodorato Arabo. Bodorato Arabo. Islam, introduce you to Barato. He's an amazing person. Islam is the third creed. The divine instructions from the Holy Prophet, chapter 11. Jesus and Barato, together they read the text. Among the Buddhist priest was one who followed lofty wisdom in the words of Jesus. It was Barato, right? Together, Jesus and Barato read the Jewish Psalms and prophets read the Vedic, the Avesta, and the wisdom. Together, Jesus and Barato read the Jewish Psalms and prophets, read the Vedic, the Avesta, and the wisdom of the with honor. And as they read and talked about the possibilities of man, Murata said, man is the marvel of the universe. Islam, he is a part of everything, for he has been a living thing on every plane of life. Right? Okay, 2, 3, we're going to go down to 9. And so in 9, because Barato's given us saying that we were first a worm, a reptile, a bird, and all this, saying all this. Then in 9, Jesus said, Barato Arabo, who told you this? That mind, which is man, may manifest in flesh of beast, or bird, or creeping thing. This is his response. Barata said, from the time which man remembers, not our priests have told us so, and so we know. And Jesus said, enlighten the Arabo. Are you a mastermind and do not know that man knows not by being told? Man knows not by being told. He don't know by being told. Man may believe what others say, but thus he never knows. If man would know, he must himself be what he is. That's why I say, am I the message I bring? Are you the message you bring? Gotta ask ourselves this question. Do you remember a rainbow? When I got 9, 12. Okay, okay, now we're gonna go to, yeah, he asked the rainbow, did he remember being an ape or a bird or a worm? And now if you have no better proving of your plea than that the priest have told you, you do not know, you simply just are guessing. So in 15 it says, regard not then what any man has said. Let us forget the past and go with mind into the land of flesh and things. Mind never does forget. And backward through the ages, masterminds can trace themselves, and thus they know. Thus they know, right? So now we're going to go 19 to 25. From Allah's own record book, we read that Tra'un Allah reached forth into 7 spirits before his face. The Hebrews call these 7 spirits Elohim, which represents the magistrate in your life. And these are they who, in their balanced power, created everything that is or was. These spirits of the true and Allah moved on the face of boundless space, and 7 ethers were, and every ether had its form of life. These forms of life were but the thought of Allah, clothed in the substance of their ether planes. Men call these ether planes the planes of protoplanes, of earth, of plant, of beast, of man, of angel, and cherubim. These planes, with all their teeming thoughts of Allah, are never seen by eyes of man and flesh. They are composed of substance far too fine for fleshly eyes to see, and still they constitute the soul of things. And with the eyes of soul, all creatures see these ether planes, and all the forms of life. Why? Because all forms of life on every plane are thoughts of Allah, all creatures think, and every creature is possessed of will, and in its measure has the power to choose. And in their native planes, all creatures are supplied with nourishment from the ethers of their planes. So, okay, as we go, because in their native planes, all creatures are supplied with nourishment from the ethers of their planes. And so it was with every living thing until the will became a sluggishness. And then the ethers of the protoplasm, the earth, the plant, the beast, the man, begin to vibrate very slow. The ethers became more dense, and all the creatures of these planes were clothed with coarser garbs of flesh, which man can see. And thus the coarser manifest, which man calls physical, appears. And this is what is called the fall of man. But man fell not alone. The protoplasm and earth and plant and beast were all included in the fall. The angels and the cherubim fell not. Their will was ever strong. And so they held the ethers of their planes in harmony with Allah. They kept with the harmony of Allah. That's the cherubim and the seraphim, the angels and the cherubim. Now, when the ether reached the rate of atmosphere, and all the creatures of these planes must get their food from atmosphere, the conflict happened. And then that which the finite man called survival of the best became a law. Remember, you became a finite man. You're no longer infinite. You fell into a finite state. A finite, which you could see. Infinite, far too fine for fleshly eyes. The stronger ate the bodies of the weaker manifest. And here is where the carnal of evolution had its. And now man, in his utter shamelessness, strikes down and eats the beast. The beast consumes the plant. The plant thrives on the earth. The earth absorbs the protoplasm. And yonder yields of the soul, this carnal evolution, is not known. And the great work of masterminds is to restore the heritage of man, to bring him back to his estate, that he had lost, when he again will live upon the ether of his native plain. The thoughts of Allah change not. The manifest of life on every plane unfolds into perfection of their time. And as the thought of Allah can never die, there is not death to any being of the seven ethers, of the seven spirits, which will not lie. And so, in earth is never plain. A beast or bird or creeping thing is never man. And man is not and cannot be a beast or bird or creeping thing. The time will come where all these manifests will be absorbed, and man and beast and plant and earth and protoplasm will be redeemed. Islam, that's our brother, Morocco. Those are our three priests that went to see Jesus. They went to visit Jesus. So dig more into that because out of the Aquarian Gospel, as I said, that Aquarian Gospel, he was pretty much reading out of chapter 17 from our holy of the Holy Koran, the Most High Temple of America. Chapter 7, divinely prepared by our noble prophet through Ali. So that's what made me want to go into these three priests because she spoke of these three priests. And then when I went to look, they're there. Muhammad, Muhammad, and Baraka, the three priests. Because we only see these three priests when you're growing up and what you knew as young. You were like, oh yeah, three priests went to visit Jesus in the manger. And that's all you have. You never knew the story of the three priests. You never knew the three priests' names. You never knew any of that. From when I was growing up, going to Saturday, things like that. So for her to pull this out, it's like, oh, I could put actually an energy to that went to visit the farm. So I want to go to chapter 13. We're gonna go to chapter 13. I think that was gonna be on here, which will come on later, so she can do a little special. I think that she, because our sister Shonda is very well. She, what's it? She's been a minister. Um, she's just done some amazing things. Like her studies have been really good. So when she starts to break down these things, because I can go into the Bible for things I'm not really privy on, she's able to go in because she's actually a minister. And now she's a part of the Morris College Temple of America. Well, she could give you her whole background. But it's just the way that she could go in here and go from different texts to pull them to you and like show them to you and where you'll want to go in and start researching for yourself. That's what I love. She'll at least be like, okay, well, go here, study this because it's in the book of this. And then when I go to study it, she may not know exactly the book and the verse, but she'll say she knows the book. She'll know the book that it's in. So when I go and I'm reading it, because I feel it needs to be more detailed than me just knowing, oh, verse 17 through 10, so 22, whatever. You know, that is, you could go deeper. So I do like that about it. But she asked about if there was anything about diet in our circle setting. So I'm going to get to that. But in chapter 13, in the life and work of Jesus in Egypt among the Gentiles, you see, Jesus, you can see he was all over the place teaching the Holy Spirit. He was over teaching. Oh. And so I just wanted to hammer back off of this because through him shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Through him, Emmanuel. Emmanuel. And Jesus stayed in Zion for many days. And then he went forth into the city of the sun, that men call Heliopolis, and sought admission to the temple of the sacred brotherhood. The council of the brotherhood convened, and Jesus stood before the hierophant. He answered all questions that were asked with clearness and with power. The hierophant exclaimed, Rabboni of the Rabbanites, why come you here? Asking Jesus, why did you come here? Your wisdom is the wisdom of God. Why seek for wisdom in the house of men? Jesus said, in every way of life I will walk. In every hall of learning I will sit. The heights that any man has gained, these I will gain. What any man has suffered, I will meet. That I may know the grief, the disappointment, and the sore temptation of my brethren, that I may know just how to support those in need. So Jesus needed to know. You can't go off of what somebody told him. That's why I said you have to know. So he said, let me go. Let me go in here. Like accept me into this. And let me go because I want to read. I want to see. So I know. So when I show it for my people, I ain't just talking about something that I actually know because I've been through. The experience of it has taught me something. So now I know how I can show up for my people and support their needs and give them what they need. But if I ain't never been through it, if you've never been homeless, if you've never been a single mother, single woman raising children, single father raising children, if you've never had to do any of that, then you don't know what people go through. You just assume. And even if you was a parent that wasn't a part of your children's life every day, you're still assuming. Because you should every day show up in this life. As mothers, we show up every day. We don't have a choice. A man can get up and just walk away and go his way. Mothers don't do that. Got some fathers that don't either. I ain't saying always. But for the most part, a mother's just not leaving. I don't. So Jesus said, I want to go through all these ways. Let me see so I know how to show up. I ain't just talking. I'm not just running my mouth back off the stuff. I have no idea. So he says, I pray you brothers let me go into your dismal crypt. This is what Jesus is saying. I pray that you brothers let me go in these dismal crypts. And I would pass the hardest of your tests. I'll pass the hardest. Thank you for the hearts, you guys. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for the hearts and the gifts. He said, I'll pass the hardest test. The master said, take then the vow of secret brotherhood. And Jesus took the vow of secret brotherhood. Again, the master spoke. He said, the highest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depth. And you shall reach the greatest depth. The guide then led the way, and in the fountain Jesus bathed. And when he had been clothed in proper guards, he stood again before the hero. So he's saying, those that reach the greatest depths will reach the highest heights. He wants to know what that felt like. So to meet Jesus, the prophets, they all think they went through to see what slavery was like. Everything that we go, they wanted to see. So when they showed up to give the message and to free the people, they could know, not simply guess like Baraka. You simply guess. No, you have to go through it, experience it, so then maybe you can show up. I've never been locked up. I can't speak from that. But what I can speak from is when my son went and how I felt like I was locked up because he was locked up. So I felt I was feeling what he was feeling as his mother. Maybe I haven't been there, but the pain of having to watch my child go through that, the pain of having of hoping a phone call would come through, the pain of not knowing what's going on with your child, the pain of not knowing where they might be transporting them to. Okay. So when no one knows what even that feels, people will just speak on stuff and they have no idea. But go through it. That's why I say, even with the things that are going on in the world, in the government, I just came from a mother of taking children through school. But when I look at the Department of Education, they never talked to me. They knew more about their history at home than the school could ever give me. All praise is due because I just wasn't giving them over to them. But those things need to change because the truth needs to come out. We need to, instead of it always being in these history books about you being a slave and this and that, you're making our children feel bad about who they are when they're talking in this way. They're not putting who made the first traffic light, who created GPS, who did this, who did that looked like us. That we're the reason for. They'll put everything in there that shows you how horrible it was and how you were only brought from a slave ship. But there's never no greatness of our leaders that are being shown. The inventors, the people that really made it, they don't talk about who discovered Chicago in every history book, and it was a brother. So yeah, all of that does need to be changed because CRT has never been anything for our children. And I know because my children were in school. If your children ain't been to school and you ain't showed up for your children in that way, If you only allowed the teacher to teach them what they did, you didn't help with homework, you didn't do none of that, you can't, because you have no idea. Because some of these children go in school, and as soon as they say one thing about a leader, they'll change it up real quick. Because them children, somebody at home is teaching them the proper way. So they'll question the teacher. Some people just think they, oh yeah, whatever they taught you, whatever they taught you, and that's why children will come home and say, but my teacher said, like the teacher has more power than you. I ain't tripping off your teacher. Your teacher, this ain't her household. Let's go into this and find this first. So we just say what she said, and we make that what it is. We etch that in stone. That's why he wanted to see. Let me go see for myself. Let me go see what it is to be home. Let me go see what it is not to have this. Let me go see what it is to be a son. Let me see what it is to be a single father. Let me see what it is. How does a single mother operate? Because that's the only way I'm gonna reach the highest height to get to the depth. Some people, because you see them at their highest, you don't know what they might have came out of them that brought them to their highest. But some they get their highest height and they never experience the greatest. Because whatever they did to get to that highest height, they never went through anything to reach it. Islam never went through anything to reach it. So Jesus showing that he had to go through it. The prophet had to go through it in order to show up for the people. So it's just not hearsay. You actually can speak to someone that's been. That's why even as we speak now, and people want to talk about the history of this and the history of that, but were you there? Who do you know that was there? Do you know anybody that pressed the hands of the prophet? Do you know anybody that sat with the prophet? Can you go to your great great grandma and ask her that? Because then that time ago, that wasn't that time that long ago. Like, can you trace that back? So how do we know? How do we know? How do we search it? How do we know it? How we know it's not false? How we know they just ain't lying? Well, we're seeing that every day now. As much as they lie to us, every day something new is coming out. We're like, dang, they lied about that too. Lied about that too. That's why we must go into these halls of learning. This is why the prophets went into the halls of learning. They didn't just go based off because they picked up a book and read it. They actually dug deep enough to say, let me go through this. This is why I chose to go through Ayurvedic school. What is this about? So let me go to school for it. When I went to school for cosmetology, I didn't just say, oh, because I seen somebody do it. I went to school for cosmetology. Went to school to learn about yoni skin, to learn more about the woman's reproduction. And even as a woman, even going through that, and I just went through that, and I have 4 children that are adults. She taught me some things I was unaware. They didn't teach that in what is it called? Uh, when they teach you about the body and science, and you go into the class and they gotta show you about the diseases and stuff that you get from having intercourse, right? They never talked about that. The stuff that she talks about, no. But that's why I went through it. I paid for it and went through it. Let me go through this school of learning. So I just don't say, oh, because I'm a mom and I got children, I know. No, because she taught some things I was not even aware of. It was not taught. So in doing these things, go through these things so you know. You're not just guessing. You're not just guessing. So I go to the experts. I'm not an expert on astrology. Even though I like to read up on it and learn on it, I'm not an expert on it. So I have friends that are experts on it, and I'll go to them and I ask them questions, and I allow them to help lead me to the answer. Maybe they're not giving me the answer, but they're at least giving me the tools to find it. So that's how we find our truth. That's how we dig into the truth as looking for it for ourselves and experiencing some things. So then when we do and we can speak on truth and we can speak on that, you're coming from a place of experience and not just a place of yapping your head. People say we could do this and we could do this paperwork. Nobody's ever showed you that it works. Nobody's ever been able to show you that this same thing that they speak of has ever worked for anyone. They can't show you a house somebody got. They can't show you that they got none of this taken. That's why you must search for self. Go after what people tell you because they'll lead you to a sinkhole if you're not diligent enough to search. So, and now we're gonna come out of this because searching for self and going into it. This is why a lot of times, well, even with I would say for me, why I gave up eating so many things, eating so much. I'm gonna be honest. When I first started eating meat, I would get a headache, really bad, like horrible. I don't know why, but it would still mess with my stomach, still be messing. And I stopped. Then I'd be like, okay, well, you know what? I'm just gonna go eat me some chicken and see. But I started noticing the way I felt. Like when I didn't have it, I'd be sick. But when I ate meat, I started feeling heavy. Things bothering me, like hurting in places. Body started telling me, leave it alone. So leave it alone. Maybe every now and then grab something. But then I noticed how depleted I feel, how my energy level is not there, how I can't even like I'm thinking the most crazy. I just stop altogether. I say we stop this. We just gonna stop. We gonna go cold turkey. No more. I just didn't do it. The difference in the way I felt. Yeah, my mind expanded. Everything, so many things. When I would read things, I could absorb them. I could digest them. I didn't have to keep going back to read to get to understand. But even though I still do that, even now through my lessons, it was just that I was never able to do that. It was like I'll have to go back and I have to read it again and again and again. So as more as my mind cleared, it helped me. It helped me more in these steps. And then when I was introduced to more science, it brought me to a whole nother thing. That's why I know I could never walk away. No matter what, because it's what saved my life. And in it, I find the truth that abodes inside me. I can find it. I can see it. I see the love. I see the resurrection. I can see it all throughout the word. Even if it's just not worded in that way, I can still unfold the lessons into myself. So over time, just not doing that, but still not really taking care of myself the correct um, until some things happened and it was like everything was falling apart. Everything was falling apart. No transit, like everything was falling. Then my body started breaking down in pieces. So the things I thought, oh yeah, I'm good with eating this and eating that, French fry this, just on the go because I can't really eat that. I'm gonna go get me some French fries. I'm gonna go get me some chicken. Like, we ain't doing that to me. So my body started reacting. Not even my mind, but it was like I was feeling stuff pulling, like, ew, let that go. Like if it's forced for me, stuff for me, pull for me. So it really started making me, and I'm now really very into it, taking care of myself. My gut, making sure I have water every day. If that's the first thing I do in the morning, I get up and go fill this up with water. I just start drinking. Then I decide what food I'm gonna eat and things like that. Some days I don't eat till later because I really just want my body to have a chance to just really regenerate. So I may not eat till 4. Haven't had nothing to eat. I just had water. But in doing that, I do notice my energy level has changed because I have been exercising more every day. Because like I said, just because you eat, it could be doesn't mean that changes your mindset. Because I know some vegans that are the most hateful people in the world. That does not mean anything. It has everything to do with not only your diet, but your mind, your body, and your spirit. Like all of that needs to work together. And we'll ignore those other parts because we think, oh, my mind together, I'm good. My body together, I'm good. The spirit ain't right. So essence ain't really intact with each other because you still allowing other things to think, understand, reason, and will for you. So that means you don't even have control over the actions of your thoughts. So in doing better with my good health and drinking more water and taking better care of myself, it's helping me really tap into my thoughts. Really know that it's there and really controlling its actions. So the essence of it can be just full of love. The essence of it. Because even in the bosom of a fool, the soul is perfect, right? But we still need to feed this soul, this spirit, this body better than what we're doing. And information and knowledge and food and energy when we're outside, we need to do it. They found a pair of shoes. They just found these pair of shoes a couple of days ago, and they said they were very, very ancient shoes. But on the bottom of them, they had some kind of magnetic. They were these little magnetic things stuck like if it was to keep you grounded. How dope the shoe was, right? And it looked like one of the shoes from a genie, but it was what was on the bottom, and they were like, we wondered if this was to keep them grounded and connected to the earth. I want to dig more into it and see. But as I was talking to you guys about this guy and how when we harm any living thing, doesn't matter. When you harm any living thing, you harm a lot. When you harm man, when you harm your brother or sister, you're harming Allah, you're harming yourself. So every time you're doing any of this, you're only harming yourself. So I know my sister's like, is there anything about eating? Which I told y'all about the eating of the lower vibration. But it talks about food in here in certain aspects. Maybe not a full chapter on it, on how you should, but it's there. So in chapter 14, in the ministry of John the Harbinger, it speaks about him being the harbinger. And John was the son of Zacharias and Elizabeth. So Elizabeth and Mary. Elizabeth was Mary's aunt. They were pregnant around the same time. And when she went to her, she had to go be with her. So that's where you get the Mary and Jesus. So John and Jesus, both of their mothers were carrying them. So they were promised to have sons that would just be amazing, these amazing sons. And so John was one of them, and the son of Zacharias. And he had finished all his studies in the Egyptian school. So he returned to Hebron, where he abode for certain days. So he's there. He went to the wilderness and made his home in David's cave for many years before he was instructed by the Egyptian sages. And then he was called out because they called him the hermit of the Gedi. And others said he was the wild man of the hills because he didn't look. People always want you to show up a certain way, but because he didn't look this way, they talked about him. Like they'll talk about him. So he clothed himself with the skins of the beast. His food was the carob, the honey, nuts, and fruit. So really, John, what is the one in the Bible? What is that called? Is it called the Daniel fast or something? And I guess they're eating certain things. Like they take certain things out their diet up until the end or something. I know my mom has done that Daniel fast before. And I know some other people that have. But and it's mighty funny. Have. As I say, we keep the lies just keep going. You know what I'm saying? The lies get so crazy. If you do have to ask yourself, well, really is it the truth? Because the Quran, remember I said the Quran A Korab is a flowering tree or shrub. They grow wild in the mountains. Remember, he was in the mountains. He was in a cave. The mountainous areas of the Mediterranean. And they're either dried into powder or can be boiled and make a delicious, highly nutritious, molasses-like concentrate. A century-old process with its malt-like sugar, adding in a healthy probiotic response. It also acts as a dependable, natural, and safe lactate. It's the best chocolate replacement with nearly as high in oxidant radical absorbance capacity, value at some 800 units per table. The Carib powder is healthy too. It's high in vitamins and minerals and an ideal option for those sensitive to chocolate, as found in chaga chunks. Oh, I love chaga. So it helps the digestive system and it's delicious. Remember I said we got to take care of our gut health. So John, he was eating crabs and fruits and nuts and honey. Wasn't no meat going in this man's mouth. And a carab is a North American herb and spice. North American, here we go again. So it's always tracing back to here, including Jesus of Nazareth. So it makes you just wonder. So these carabs, man, carabs that he has, there's the food. It says when, oh wow, that's beautiful. Um, when John was 30 years of age, he went into Jerusalem, and in the marketplace he sat in silence 7 days. He sat for 7 days silent. The common people and the priests, the scribes, and the Pharisees came out in multitudes to see the silent hermit of the Jews. But none were bold enough to ask him who he was. But when his silent fast was done, he stood forth in the midst of all and said, behold, the king has come. The prophet told him, the wise men long have looked for him. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. Prepare to meet your king. We're going to go down to 8c. Jewish feast day came. Jerusalem was filled with Jews and proselytes from every part of Palestine. And John stood in the temple court and said, prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. So you have lived in sin. This is what he's saying to them. This is what he's saying to because remember, he said Jewish feast day came, Jerusalem was filled with Jews and proselytes from every part of Palestine. And John stood in the temple court and said, so you have lived in sin. The poor cry in your streets, and you regard them not. I call these infidels. Your neighbors, who are they? You have divided friends and foes alike. You worship Allah with voice and lips. Your hearts are far away and set on gold. Your priests have bound upon the people burdens far too great to bear. They live in ease upon the hard-earned wages of the poor. Your lawyers, doctors, scribes are useless cumbers of the ground. They are but tumors on the body of the state. They toil not, neither do they spin, yet they consume the profits of your marts of trade. Your rulers are adulterers, extortioners, and thieves, regarding not the rights of man, and robbers ply their calling in the sacred hills. The holy temple you have sold to thieves. Their dens are in the sacred places set apart for prayer. Hear, you people of Jerusalem, reform, turn from your evil ways, or Allah will turn from you. And a heathen from afar will come, and what is left of all your honor and your fame will pass in one short hour. Prepare, Jerusalem, prepare to meet your king. He said no more. He left the court, and no one saw him go. The priests, the doctors, and the scribes were all enraged. They sought for John, intent to do him harm. They found him not. Interesting. Because they're searching to do harm to somebody right now that's trying to help the people with their money. Because it just said what John says, you have lived in sin, the poor cry in your street. You regard them not. You regard them not. Not a Democrat has regarded them. Not a celebrity has regarded them. Unless you're just not poor in the street. You know, maybe you haven't lived it. Like I said, for a lot of people, they try to come and say something. They ain't lived that life, so they don't know. When you have and you see your people doing great, having great things, and they don't even regard the fact that people are in the street crying. They don't. They're not regarding that at all. They'll worship God with their voice and lips. They'll sing loud. They'll do all these things. We can look at Marvin Sapp right now as a person. It's just crazy to see how a lot of these people are doing God's house. What's supposed to be meant for God's people. And now you're telling people they can't leave until they give you something. They can't do this. This is why I love Prophet Noble Broadly. Because he specifically says, hey, if you can, it takes finance to uplift a nation. So if you have money in the bank, subscribe for as much as you can to the Morris Uplifting Fund. He don't say, "Oh, you gonna give me your 10%. You gonna give me 20%." He ain't did none of that. Even when he said if you're standing around on your meeting period, you'll be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second case, $1, which goes on your emergency fund, not somebody else's, because you might have an emergency. And you've been doing things, so they set aside while you was standing around doing your thing. They at least had an emergency fund for you, just in case something happened. That's why I love Robert Noble, because the way he set things up, he wasn't saying you had to do this. He said if you had to do this. If member is working, his monthly due must be paid. But you can't ask nobody for no monthly due if they ain't working. And then if they're not working, are you supplying any jobs for them? Because I'll hear that in a minute. These people, these Moors, ain't none of them real Moors because they ain't paying their dues. Excuse me, do y'all know if them Moors even have a place to live? Do they even have finance to give to you? And that's the sad part. Because maybe you're doing good for yourself, so you regard not the poor because you're good. So you don't regard the poor. And this is the problem. So we see, as I said, we see people trying to go take people out because they found out how much money you took from us. Well, I'd rather somebody be finding out what's been taken from us and figure so we can get it back. But y'all want to go take these people out. But swear that you have the love of God. So you say you pull this out your mouth. But when it comes down to it and God say, well, you remember that day you kept saying you crazy, you was going to church, you was going all these things. But you remember that day you said you wanted to take that man out? You remember that day you was trying to get them people to come up against them people? That's going to be, you're going to have to answer to them. You're going to have to answer to these things. Whether that's with yourself or a higher power. You're going to have to answer because it's going to come at you. And your spirit, it ain't sit right in your spirit. It's not if your spirit is of God. Not if your spirit is of Allah. Because love is love. We can see all of this. So if this was spoken already then in the Aquarian Gospel, as I was looking, the Aquarian Gospel was written by a European, a Caucasian. A lot of these texts were not written by nobody who looked like us. Prophet Noble Ali is one. Divinely prepared. The last 4 chapters are his words. So when people try to say that he took from this, well, he's trying to get your attention because you wasn't gonna go search for it. You wasn't gonna go be in the Aquarian Gospel. You wasn't gonna go be with the Rosicrucians. You wasn't gonna go be in the Christian church. You wasn't gonna go do all that. So he divinely prepared it so that you could understand it in a language of your own. Because once you start digging into all that other stuff, you're gonna come away from who you are. And he wanted to make sure you stayed in alignment with them. He wanted to make sure you stayed in alignment with Allah. So even though it unfolds into something majorly huge and big, probably bigger than all of those texts put together, as it unfolds in you and as the degrees come to you, because they come to you in degrees, it's levels. You're just not going to get it because it's there. But he was able to compile these teachings into our circle set. And if we're diligent enough, and if we study to show ourselves approved, that's what it is, then it unfolds to us into what we need. And then we're able to reach this deific life. We're able to see the possibility and do these possibilities because he has to show us. But in showing us these possibilities, we must all be in alignment in everything. So as I said, in the way you treat people, the way you treat yourself, the way you eat, the way you live, the way you everything. It has to be that. You have to be the example. You must be the message. You must be the messenger. If you're bringing that message, be them. But don't front like you're the message and you're really not. You're just it's not regarding the people. Because this work is for those that love Allah. And that means loving Allah, you're loving the people, you're loving the children, and you want to see everybody. Everybody. You want to see everybody. Right. Not just some people, because it sounds good, but you want to see everybody. Because not all our enemies ain't just of another color, our enemies are our own people. And you can even tell because, as I said, as I'm going through to see, well, who published this and who was the writer of this or who put this together, a lot of these are Caucasian people. So for love to so-called have a color of people that is only going to attract to, it sure was a lot of love coming from a lot of people like Edgar Casey, which is not an Asiatic. Mr. Levi was not an Asiatic. The dude in the what did I say? Petersburg, Russia, not Asiatic. So when we're talking love, where love is coming from, it don't matter where it's coming from. Love is love. And it sounds like a lot of ours was holding back the love of God, except Prophet Noah. Except Prophet Noah. Brother, it's like me and you, he brought this compilation of so many things, right? So that we can find it. He divinely prepared it so that we can find ourselves. The Asiatics of North America could really find out who they were, who they are, where we really come from, instead of just guessing. Now it's really coming out that the face you've been looking over there ain't it, not for us. Now I'm getting into this that I just got today, and this is gonna be my next build with you guys. It is based on my brother, my amazing brother I grew up with. I love the people I grew up with because we keep each other abreast. And it feels good when you have those that you grew up with that are on that same vibration that you're on. They're on the same vibration. But this is in the Library of Congress, y'all. It's called The History of Ancient America, anterior to the time of Columbus, proving the identity of the Aborigines with the Tyrians and the Israelites. This is in the Library of Congress, y'all, and I'm going to get into it. It was published in 1843. The headings are America Antiquities, Indians Origin, America Discovery and Exploration, Phoenicia. And it's in PDF form. If you go to the Library of Congress and look this up, you can download it as a PDF. It's called The History of Ancient America, Hmm. Anterior to the time of Columbus, proving the identity of the Aborigines with the Tyrians, and the Israelites. So keep that out because that's going to be our next video. Our next video is going to be that. Because I was just reading a little portion of it, and baby, matter of fact, let me just share a little portion. Maybe it'll get y'all to want to dig into it. But this was coming out of the first chapter. And he sent me 2 pages. I said, no, you got to send something more because I was just getting into it. Introduction of the preface for the Arthur's historical work upon the life of Teshuvah. I think that's the way it's said. Tecumseh. When you look it up, it's what it gives you. Right here. Like it's giving you right over here. Name to be used for the South or Central America, the fundamental error of the historians of America, essential opposites in character. Rules of argument for illustrating the theory, and sufficient identity of the North to prove two distinct people. The Aborigines wrongfully named Indians by Columbus, the cause of his error and its effect. In the prefatory remarks to the forthcoming work upon the chieftain, Tecumseh, I don't know if I'm saying this right. The following language is used, and we avail ourselves of the privilege of extracting from our own storehouse materials for the commencement of this new historical campaign. The, the courteous reader, in tracing the fate of Tecumseh as depicted in the pages of his life. Y'all, I'm going to say it right because I did go through it to learn how to say it. I totally lost how to say it. Fail to observe the strong analogy between the religious sentiments of the chiefs of the forest and those of the ancient Hebrews. The language as uttered by Tecumseh is not written by the pen of fiction, merely to uphold a theory of the brain, but gathered from the archives of a people's history to support a theory of apparent truth. The present writer will not yield to any man in the firm belief that the Aborigines of North America, but North America only, and the ancient Israelites are identical, unless converted by the stern authority of superior historical deduction. We therefore have formed an original theory in reference to the natives of the North and those of South and Central America, together with the newly discovered ruined cities in and around Guantanamo. Guatemala. Excuse me, Guatemala. I'm thinking of Guantanamo Bay. Excuse me. And by that theory, have separated into two distinct races or people, the Aborigines of the Western Hemisphere. The lately recovered ruins, cities, and temples in Central America, and of which no ancient record is to be found, have shattered the claim of acknowledged history to Adam. And until that change is again united by a firmly established theory, education herself must pause. Erie she can, Erie she can with the wand of truth point to her rising children the history of the world or its inhabitants. Suspicion has asserted that all the natives of the continent of Columbus might probably have been originally of Hebrew extraction. The assertion has been made in doubt and trembling for writers, and that's all he sent me. So I was like, how you just send me these 2 pages? I just be getting into it. So now that I have the full text, the PDF that has dropped, that I downloaded, go in. I'm gonna go into that a little more so I can learn more about that. Because the one thing I love is doing the study of it here in America. In North America. Whether that's antiquity, we just know like just more and more that's coming out that we were original, like as old as it can be. You know what I'm saying? It's all one, yes, it's all one thing, but we're not gonna discount that we've always. That's what we're not. Because no, not too many came on no boat. It's shown where you could see that more made the islands than they got to North. So if we're talking anything that went from one place to another, they really went into the island. That's where they got them. It really wasn't. The more you doing research on Louisiana, New Orleans, the different tribes that were here, or nations, or empire, whatever, it all makes up if you break it down from family to tribe. It's not like that's not a disrespectful thing to say. Because when you understand how empires work, you have to understand family, tribe, kingdom, empires. You have to understand that. So to say you're a tribe or to say you're a clan, there's nothing wrong with that. You have to understand what they even are. Have you looked them up to even go into the definition instead of just assumption or assuming? So loving the fact of being able to go in and find out, yeah, most likely, Mesoamerica is the most. It is more ancient than anything. To understand we've already were here during a time, even if others were here before, it's our bloodline, it's our lineage, and it's who we are. So I'm gonna get more into this document, and so our next build will be more off of that, so that we can really dive into it. Because we need to be proud to be Americans. We need to be proud of our country. We need to be proud of where we have come from. So this, this. If you came from somewhere else, I mean, that's you. And okay, hey, no disrespect for that. But we're going to respect the fact for those of us that came. And just as much as we give respect to the other parts of Africa, we're going to give respect to here. Because it's mighty funny, as I say, everybody comes here, even though everybody here want to go there. Everywhere from all over the world want to come right here to North America. They didn't say Central America. They didn't say South America. They want to come right here. And there's so many other places you can go. But why right here? Why is this so important for people to come to? Whether they're coming here to get money or whatever. What makes it so important? And we ain't up running to another place that's supposed to get us. We got a whole lot of resources. And they would rather you get up and leave from your manifest, from your plane of manifest, to go to someone else's plane of manifest. And when you get there, just like I watched the lady said, oh yeah, y'all can move to Ghana. You can't buy no land though. You can buy a house, but you can't get no land. If you're not a citizen of none of these places, you can't get no land. You can't buy land. You can buy a property, you can buy a house, you can buy a condo, a camp, but you cannot have land. Land is only for the citizens. Hmm. So why you want to get up and move and think they're accepting you? You gotta realize you can't buy land because it ain't your home. They gonna just go back home and buy land at your house because this is for the people here. And I just seen that video this morning. The lady was breaking it down. She's like, yeah, you can come over to Ghana. She's like, I'm here, but you can't buy land unless you're a citizen of the country. So that means you had to be there. And not just a citizen on paper, meaning like literally your bloodline comes from it. She said, because that's the misconception. People think, oh, you can leave and I'm gonna go over here and go buy me some land. You can't prove no bloodline there, you can't get it. So your best bet is to keep your butt right here and find some land on your own stuff. Because you got to realize, even if you go buy a house, if they decide to put up eminent domain over there, They show taking your stuff. They ain't gonna even second guess. They gonna take it. Cause they gonna be like, well, first of all, you ain't originally from here. So eminent domain is for these people, for us, anyway. If that's what they decided to do. This is why it's a big deal. It's learn who we are. More and more. It's even getting worse and worse now because now they're saying, I haven't read into the Social Security thing about people having to, I guess, prove who they are at this point, but it's true. Chinese and Greek and all of them got to come over here and prove their nationality. We should too. But do you even know what that is? Are you going to sign yourself off to do something? This is why it's important for us to know it and go back to it. Stop going off of people's telling. So I love y'all. I hope y'all are having a great Sunday. Great Sunday. I'm going to read some words from the prophet before I close out this evening. Islam, Islam, Islam. To the members of the Morris Science Temple of America, Islam, this is the instruction from your prophet, Noble Drew. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on. But the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near. So says Allah to his divine prophet, I know you Ali. And that is why many hearts have been turned to stone. And many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving. And they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones who do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your profit. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temple. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islam. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7. And love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And we all stand as we recite our Moorish American prayer. We put 5 fingers up on the left, 2 on the right, and our heels touching one another, standing on our square. Repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protection, my God, and my salvation, by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam, I hope you guys have a great Sunday. See you again one day this cycle. Maybe we'll come Wednesday and maybe Friday. But we will be bringing something daily, even if it's words in the Islam, Islam, peace and love. Peace and love, TikTok. Peace and love, YouTube.